Help support the show by joining the Patreon or becoming a YouTube member. Also, hit that like button and subscribe if you want more Browns-focused content.
You know, last week I ended up doing a show with Brad Ward, and I thought to myself, I need to bring the other person of that trio of the show I used to do on that channel onto the channel. It's been a while. Abby Mueller, everybody. I believe you're now writing for Dogs by Nature, right?
Yes, I am. Yeah, taking on some article writing now, which is a little new. I'm used to just talking to the camera all the time. So it's been a fun challenge. But yeah, I also moved apartments since I think I was last on here. So different background too, which is really exciting.
There you go. Different white wall.
Life, a new white wall. But yeah, life's good other than the Browns. So we have that.
Well, let's jump into it, right? Because statistically speaking, right, this team has made the playoffs 2 times in the last 5 years. It is not the most amount of failure on the football field we have seen this team go through. We have seen much worse, much more incompetent football teams. We have seen teams with much less talent than what the Browns have right now.
Right.
I'm not asking if this is the worst Browns era to be in from that standpoint, but has this been the most exhausting it's had to be a Browns fan that you could remember? Because it's been a lot the last 5 years.
Yeah, I feel like it's been a lot too, like you said, because when you add all of those years up together now, if it was just this year alone and you were just looking at, this one season, it would be bad, but it wouldn't be as bad if you didn't have the buildup of the Deshaun Watson era and how hard that was on fans emotionally, mentally, then to have that not work out and then to get to this season and also have a continued, tough situation at quarterback. I think like the combination of everything is what makes it so hard because everyone was already so emotionally drained from that to like be in this place now, it feels challenging. If you stuck this season right after the Baker Mayfield era, maybe it wouldn't feel as bad because it was like, oh, we had some good years in there, that was fun. But putting it right after everything with Deshaun Watson, I think it's like that's the killer.
Yeah, if it was just like this were the transition, because like spiritually, this is where I'm at. We're finally doing the transition year we never did because we wanted to jumpstart this and go with Deshaun Watson, right?
We tried so hard to not do it. We were really trying.
Like they gave up on Baker being a championship level quarterback in the AFC.
Yeah.
They thought he could be good, but they didn't think they could break through. They thought that Deshaun could break through, so they make that bet. And that kind of delayed things. But in reality, once they made the move from Baker Mayfield, this was inevitably where we were going to end up, right? Like that, they put their hand out, hope for a shooting star, and they thought they caught one, and then it took them right to hell, right? Like it was actually not a shooting star; it was a bright line express right to hell. But yeah, I think you make a great point there. It's the Watson being in between it because not only. It's difficult because it's not like Baker Mayfield was like a universally loved figure in Cleveland by the end. Like it's been rewritten as if Baker Mayfield was this beloved figure, but I remember being on shows arguing my heart out, being like, you guys can't believe Case Keenum is better, right? But that's where we were. We were at that place that Cleveland tends to get with the quarterback, a bit impatient, but also we had not seen it from Baker in situations where we thought we should be able to see it.
Yeah.
And then going from that polarizing era, which was like, do we give up on the guy? Do we go for it? To go for Deshaun Watson, who was polarizing for a lot of different reasons, and then ended up being polarizing for his play on top of that.
Right.
It was like, what do we continue to do here? And I always make this point. I used to fight it that this wouldn't be the worst trade in like Browns history, but there's no doubting that it's that at this point. And you think about it, it's like you didn't just fail at a trade. Imagine if you spent 3 first-round picks, 2 fourth-round picks, and a third, and none of those players were ever active for you in the last calendar year.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
honestly.
that's essentially what happened to the Browns.
Yeah.
On top of, hey, you spent $46 million a year on free agent talent that didn't work out
Yep.
and you don't have on the team anymore.
Yeah. I mean, that is certainly a way to look at it that makes you feel worse about the situation because, yeah, it's not just him being bad; it's what you gave up in the process of that. And I
Mm-hmm.
think, you know, as polarizing as Baker was, I think whether you loved him or hated him, you cared. And like
Mm-hmm.
now, it feels like after all of the years of Deshaun and now this year, like the passion is gone for a lot of people. They're arguing, but like sitting and watching games on Sundays, like people don't care as much about the results. They're kind of like, yeah, we lost. Of course we did. This is how it goes. With the Baker era, we were still winning games and it felt like people clung to like, Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Barry in that era. There was some like hope for the future at the time. Whereas right now it feels like there's a different level of like hopelessness, I think, that didn't exist then.
Yeah, it's definitely like cynicism. It's definitely, I think a lot of people had some hope and like are in the process of recovering from that, right? Like it's a tough thing when you believe something's going to work out and it just truly
Yeah.
does not work out, right? Like it
Yeah.
just burns, right? Um, and it's not easy to jump back in there. And I think that's also been another thing where it's like, hey man, fresh off the Deshaun Watson failure, there's not going to be a ton of people who are like ready to close their eyes, jump into the pool, and be like, yeah, let's get behind Dylan Gabriel. Let's get behind Shador Sanders. It's going to be a lot more hesitancy here because, one, we're not just a normal fan base. We've seen a lot. We've seen a lot of quarterbacks come into situations and not have success. And we know what failure looks like almost to the point to where it paralyzes us from being able to do anything else.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's the tough thing for it. And I think the worst thing about this era and the worst thing about the Watson trade is that it really burnt a lot of goodwill
Mm-hmm.
that this team really, like the players on the team outside of Watson, truly do deserve, right?
Right.
Because like the amount of times I hear people like this roster is just terrible, I'm like, this roster's not terrible. It's just they swung and missed on a quarterback in a way. And like for me, when I look at that, I know it bums some people out when I bring up just how much you did not get out that Watson trade. For me, it at least explains why we are where we are.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, it would be more concerning to me if the Browns were this bad and I couldn't explain it. Like, we had been drafting on offense and we're still this bad. This makes it make sense where I'm like, okay, that's where the resources went.
Yeah.
We're getting nothing out of it. It's not a shock that the offense looks like this. And I think internally that's how they view it.
Yeah.
But also, unfortunately for them, that swing and miss has made it so nobody has any goodwill to spend on that, right? And I do worry about that as this team transitions to probably getting a quarterback next year. How much goodwill is there going to be if this is still branded as brought to you by the same people who brought you Deshaun Watson or the same process that brought you Deshaun Watson, even though it's a completely different thing? We're going to continue this conversation with me and Ab, but real quick, got to thank my sponsor, Sleeper. Real quick, just want to let you guys know Sleeper has a new offer here. They're offering a free $20 entry, no deposit required. And also, if you're a first-time user, you also will receive a 100% match on up to $100 when you use the promo code Worst Take. Again, $20 free, no deposit required. Plus, first-time users also receive a 100% deposit match up to $100. Join Sleeper.
Yeah. I think, there's so much resentment build up there where it's going to be hard for people if it's like not immediately working out the way they want it to trust that the front office is making sound decisions. Even when, this most recent draft, people have talked about how great of a job the front office did with the draft class from this past year. But it's still hard for people to trust it almost because of that Watson trade alone being so terrible, which, I understand, even though I'm like, it is a great draft class. Like there's some staple pieces that are going to be a part of
Yeah.
it for a really long time, which is exciting. And it almost makes me more excited about the front office in a way, because this is the first time in a while we've gotten to see what they do when they have like a normal draft selection to work from. There were years we didn't pick until the third round, and it's really hard to assess what a front office is good at doing in the draft when for a couple years in a row you're not picking till late second, third round. It's hard to say what they're going to do. So it almost makes me feel better in a way, as much as I obviously despise the Deshaun Watson trade of it all.
Yeah, it's just a tough spot right there that they put themselves into, and it's important that they remember that too.
Yep.
But it's the spot that they're in nonetheless. What do you think could be done? Like, obviously winning games can repair
Right.
this to a point, right? But what do you think as we move on from the Watson era, as they show no interest in like talking about this guy anymore or even showcasing him? It's clear that they have cut their losses here with Watson. At least emotionally, like the ideal of him being the face of the franchise is just they're over it, right?
Yeah.
What do you think is going to be required? Like, maybe Kevin stays, maybe he doesn't, but do you think like somebody just has to get fired in order to repair this relationship? Or do you think that like it is possible on some level for them to keep Kevin, AB, and just put some new bodies on that offense?
Yeah.
And it just simply winning games will be enough to get people over it.
Yeah, there is a lot of me now that is starting to feel like someone has to go in order for, the positivity and just change to be made to come back around in this organization. And, Kevin could go somewhere else and have great success, and Andrew could go somewhere else and have great success. I think both of those things are possible. Sometimes, like, people just need change, a new environment, in order to accomplish that. I mean, I even, from a player perspective, you look at like Baker Mayfield in his career, like he staying in Cleveland wasn't going to become what he became. That just was not going to be a realistic outcome. And he had to go through multiple struggles and trials and tribulations to get to be the quarterback he was now. That can be the same for, a coach, where it's like, it might just not be working anymore in the position you're in because of all of the baggage that comes along with it. Everything that has happened, you can't ignore that stuff. It has happened. It's existed here. So even though I think there's a lot of great things about Kevin, part of me does feel like, maybe just change in general will just spark something new for both the Browns and for Kevin in his career as well.
Yeah, I think Kevin's like in a similar spot, because I hear Pete Smith talk about it, where he's like, Kevin's in the same spot like Mike Vrabel was in a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And I think that's why Pete wants to keep Kevin, and I respect that like opinion. I don't necessarily agree with it. I respect it. It's a good take. My only thing with it is like, I think Mike Vrabel needed the year in Cleveland. I think Mike Vrabel needed to get away from Tennessee to be Mike Vrabel again, right? Because at the end, he didn't look like Mike, right? Like that didn't feel like Mike Vrabel, right, anymore. And I think with Kevin, it's like, as much shit is going to be thrown on his chest, because, look, I've made this point of why Kevin is the one that has to go and not Andrew, in my opinion. You look at the problems on offense, we could say Kevin doesn't have the horses, but Kevin had a hand in every decision that's affecting the offense right now. We could complain about the offensive line being old, but Kevin wanted to keep that offensive line intact, right? We could complain about the wide receivers not being developed well, but Kevin got a bunch of third-round pick wide receivers, didn't really get much out of them. These are the guys that his staff wanted, to a point. Obviously didn't have the same amount of resources as the offense, as the defense. I'm not expecting them to be elite like the defense, though, right? Like, I'm expecting them to be league average, and I think he's gotten enough to be league average. They bought in Jerry Jeudy, Amari Cooper over the years, right? We could complain about the quarterback situation, but Kevin's had a hand in the quarterback situation, right? Like, they're not doing stuff, and like, I think DePodesta brought this up. The Browns front office philosophy is not a King Scout philosophy, where they don't believe in like, oh, the one scout to rule them all, right? That's kind of
Right.
like the John Dorsey theory, right? And why he got kicked out of Kansas City is because he thought he should make every decision because he's the guy who knows everything to do. And that's not how the Browns operate, right? That's why they fired John Dorsey.
Right.
The Browns operate and like they collaborate. They're going to get input from their position coaches. And when one side of the ball is consistently hitting on third, fourth, undrafted guys, fine. Ronnie Hickman is good now. like just starter after starter. Mahmoud Diab, they got so many guys that they've just fixed that linebacker. They can't even play them all right now. And we're talking about a team that's out one of their best players at the position in JOK, right? Like that's what's been happening on the defensive side of the ball. Offensively, it hasn't happened there. And I think that's where I point to where with Kevin, where it's like, if the excuse is that there's not the horses, you ain't take the job yesterday, right? Like you took this job, not only took the job, you took the job, it was a part of the hiring process for Andrew Berry.
Yep.
Like you knew what that collaboration process was going to be coming into it.
Yeah.
This is your bed.
Yeah,
right?
and they've constantly repeated to the fans that like everyone has a hand in the decisions being made. They have not pretended at any point that it was all the front office and that Kevin has been hands off. Like they are clear that from top down, everyone is participating in these decisions. So I think you're right. Like, and look, I know both you and I have, at many times been some of the only people defending Kevin in the past, in certain eras of this team. So it's taken a lot definitely to get to this point. And I don't say it lightly that like, I do think, if they were to decide to move on from him, like I am okay with that at this point. I think it wouldn't be the worst thing ever to just try to change it up. Now, I don't think there's like fantastic head coaching candidates out there right now that I'm super stoked about, but sometimes you just have to take a risk and make a move because doing the same thing over and over again is clearly not working at this point.
Yeah, and it's not working for Kevin at this point. And that's the other point I want to get to with him is like, I feel for him because like, while I can acknowledge, I think he has made his own bed to an extent here. They have asked a lot out of him.
For sure.
Like over the years. And there have been some years where he has delivered, right? And what's unfortunate about this is that it's never felt like they've made Kevin's job easy, right?
Yeah.
And it feels like, this guy's been holding up this heavy wall this whole time. It finally breaks his back and we're like, he's useless, right? Yeah. Like, but if the guy's got a broken back, he's not going to be useful for you. And that's kind of where it is with Kevin, where it's like, man, you asked a lot out of him. Like people forget, people have selective memory because I talk about this all the time. The way people talk about Kevin right now because they want to fire him is just like, they're lying to make a point.
Yeah.
But
and they're the same ones that have been saying it since the day he got here. Like,
but it's like 2019. People talk like he inherited a winning team. He inherited a disaster in 2019, right? Like COVID was on this team. This offensive line. Remember, we were starting like Greg Thomas. What was his name? Greg Robinson, right?
If
Greg
you
Robinson.
Read some of those rosters, you're like, who are these guys that were on this team?
Yeah, like Hugh Jackson was barely playing Nick Chubb, right? They brought in Kareem Hunt, didn't really have a plan for how they were going to operate with that. Baker Mayfield felt like he was getting lost in the shuffle, already had like 4 different offensive coordinators and quiet as kept. I think that's what set the table for the disaster that was 2021, where you already exposed Baker to so much instability. He's not going to listen to Kevin when Kevin's telling him what to do, right? Because he thinks Kevin's going to be gone. I'm in control here, right? You're Baker Mayfield. You've seen 4 of these guys go.
Like he'll be gone in a month,
So he's dealing with that, right? Like that nonsense that he has the Freddie Kitchens nonsense there, the different offensive coordinator changes. David Njoku didn't want to be here in that time period, right? Like all of this stuff he had to inherit in 2020. He brought out a pretty good offense. And like it's not like that offense was stacked. Like it was like Jarvis Landry at the end of his career, Odell Beckham, but Baker and him had beef, so he wasn't getting the ball. Like this was a very difficult job, and he did a good job with it in 2020. 2021, the way we talk about it, you would think that team was way worse than they were, but they were like 8-9
Yeah, they were
that season.
close. They were
They
close
almost
to the
made the playoffs that
Yeah.
year, right?
Yeah.
And if it weren't for a couple of like straight up disaster classes from Baker Mayfield that
Yeah.
year, well, it was like a game where he lost to Lamar when Lamar threw 4 interceptions.
Yep.
And then there was the 5 interception Christmas Day game.
They
Boom,
agreed
right
that.
there. That's playoffs right there if you win those 2 games. It's
Yeah.
funny how people forget that. And then he didn't play the last game of the season because his agent told him not to, which again, the Baker
People
Mayfield
also forget,
story.
yeah.
Yeah, the Baker Mayfield story will be told wrong for the rest of my
Correct.
life, unfortunately,
Yeah.
because of how it turned out. But yeah, there's a lot of details in there that people miss. You get this Deshaun Watson thing. From what everybody seems to say, he was the least on board with it.
Mhm.
And you know, he's working something out with Jacoby Brissett, gets them to a place where they might be able to make the playoffs. And then Deshaun comes in there, he's just not ready.
Mhm.
They decide to just do a whole change to this offense after that. And then they're still trying to figure out this Deshaun thing. And this year, there was no way this offense was going to be great, right?
No.
We all acknowledged that this offense wasn't going to be great. I don't think we thought it would be this bad, but we never thought it would be great. And it's just so bad at this point, and it's been so bad for so long. And we're looking at the people there, and it's like, well, Andrews demonstrated his value recently. He kept Myles Garrett. He has a really good draft class. You look at these last 2 draft classes, they're really solid.
Yeah.
I'm not eager to fire that guy when we're about to use a ton of draft assets right now. The guy that you could point to.
Too. Like next year has some serious picks in it. It's like, do you want a new GM coming in and making picks at that point that you like don't, know their philosophy or trust that they have, experience doing what you want to do? Like that, that's a risky time to bring in someone new and be like, yeah, we have 2 first-round picks. Let's do it.
Especially after last year where you used a lot of assets to start building the foundation. And it's like, it's a good foundation, right? Even the pieces on offense, we're like, we see what could be, right? You have a motor to the offense in Quincy Judkins, right? If you get some wide receivers, some offensive line, you got something cooking. But hold on. Sorry about that.
Good.
But yeah, so you got something there, right? But it's also, it feels like if it's still Kevin, if it's still the same exact thing, that first hiccup or that first, they lose in the playoffs, instead of it being, okay, we're going to build, get better, it's going to be same old shit. Right, is going to be the feeling from the fan base. And I understand that this is not a strength of Andrew Berry's game, which is identifying the feelings of the larger fan base. He is not proven to be good at this. Even as somebody who really thinks Andrew should keep his job, worst thing he does, he has no read for the room.
Yeah.
You still got to have some kind of no further example of why we need just a change. If you can make it and it can be process oriented, that would just be beneficial for everybody. Look at how Dylan Gabriel got treated in that game. Look at how Shador got treated in that game, right? And it's interesting how this is going because this isn't about football to me anymore, how this is going
really
now.
Not.
This is like, okay, Dylan Gabriel kind of represents the status quo to a lot of people, right? The Kevin Stefanski way of doing things. And Shador is just at least something different.
Yeah.
Right? And we have learned through recent history, we don't got to get specific. When that's the choice that people get, they can sometimes just go with something different, right? And it's like Dylan, he was 7 of 10. The first incompletion that he had, just nonstop boost. The Browns are up by 6 against the Ravens. It doesn't matter, right? Shador comes in there, everybody loses their mind, and all of a sudden the fan base is happy with not scoring points in the second half.
Yeah.
And losing to the Ravens.
But we're developing him, so
there's leeway there. And I'm not saying that to be critical of Shador. My point here is
not his fault. It's certainly not his fault.
Well, my point here is that is what they need going forward, which is grace, right?
100%.
Shador has grace with the fan base right now,
Yeah.
which allows him to go out. If he goes out there and looks like dude this week, there's gonna be some grace for him, right?
For
Because
sure.
people want to extend it. And that's my concern is like, hey, if this choice that they make in the draft is still associated heavily with Kevin Stefanski, there's just not gonna be any grace.
Yeah.
And that is a problem right now
Yeah.
for them.
Yeah, that quarterback has one bad game or one bad throw, and it's like going to be get Kevin out of there. Like that's going to be the narrative, not as much about that quarterback specifically and developing that quarterback and all of the things around it. Yeah, I totally agree with you.